This is the Farmington Feed, bringing you information from the City of Farmington.
Hi, and welcome back to the Farmington Feed. I'm Caryn Hojnicki, the city's communications specialist, and I'm hungry for another episode of the Feed. We have 4 special guests with us today, and we are introducing some of our Farmington Faces with a new employee speed round. Round 1 is going to start with Kim Summerland, Finance Director, and Josh Lawrence, Building Official. Hi, and welcome, Kim and Josh.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. My first question is, can each of you tell us how you became interested in your current position?
So I became interested in this field probably 2016 when I honestly was looking for a new home for our family and looking at some of the architectural designs of the houses. And it just got me thinking that it was a strong interest that I had. And I went back to school at North Hennepin for a degree in building inspection technology.
Oh, I didn't know that was a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What about you, Kim?
Well, I have a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of St. Thomas. And since I graduated, I moved out to a city in Washington State, a little bit smaller. I actually have a degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing. But when I moved out to that smaller city, there wasn't much of a market for marketing. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in an office and started my career in financial management and accounting.
Oh, at accounting. Okay. So you've been in accounting and cities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. So Josh, how long have you been working in this field? You said since 2016?
Correct. Yep. So I started in the field in 2018 as an intern in the north part of the metro, and I helped clear up a monumental hailstorm, a 2017 hailstorm, where there was probably 20,000 homes affected in that community.
Oh, wow.
And that got my foot in the door from there, completed an internship, stayed on board with that community for about 2 years, and then took another job south of the metro, where I started off as a entry-level inspector, was promoted to a senior level inspector, and then ultimately when the position opened up here in Farmington, I came up here as our new building official.
All right. So building inspections is only one division of the community development department. So can you explain a little bit how they all work together?
So the community development department does have both planning and zoning, building inspection, and engineering is also involved with that as well, with the plan review. And the groups work together from a concept to development and fruition to actually building the structure. So the community and economic development portion of it is really that concept. Our planning and zoning might work with the developer on making sure that it's zoned properly for the function or the use of the land. And then ultimately our division, the building division, looks at the architectural plans and the way that it's built and helps the contractor bring it to an actual occupancy.
Yeah, and making it safe for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important, and sometimes it seems like inspectors get a bad rap. Is that true?
It is very true. Unfortunately, we are a department where sometimes we have to be that second set of eyes for the consumer or for the applicant, and sometimes we have to say no. Sometimes we have to look out for the life safety functionality of the building, and if we identify something that is insufficient, we have to bring it up to the minimum standard that's identified by the building code.
Yeah, and that's bad news because then it probably means more money for that builder.
Not in all cases. I mean, sometimes, yes, the financial aspect of it is why people tend to be leery about working with the building inspection department, but ultimately it's a safeguard that is very, very important.
I mean, you're here to help. Like, you want them to do everything right, correct? I mean, that's what it is.
Absolutely. And really, the building inspection department shouldn't be seen as a roadblock, but it really should be looked at as an avenue to bring a project from an idea to brick and mortar and actual fruition.
The city just received another A++ bond rating. What does that even mean?
Often cities, when they have a big project, they don't have maybe the cash on hand, just like you or I need to make a big purchase, a house, and we need to borrow money in order to do that project. So cities will go out and bond, issue debt to borrow money for that project. And as part of that process, they will often have a third party, a credit rating agency, look at their credit worthiness.
Oh, so it's like the city's credit.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. And so as part of that process, they will meet with management, have a number of questions that they ask about our finances, analyze our financial statements. And in doing that, then they will come up with a score for the city. And they look at the institutional framework, the economy, management, budgetary flexibility, budgetary performance, liquidity, and debt and contingent liability. And based on those factors that they'll issue us a score. And the last time we issued bonds, it was in 2022, and the city went with Standard & Poor's to do their credit rating. And we have a AA+. It's the second highest available rating.
Sorry, I said A++. See, I didn't even know what that meant.
And the higher ratings obviously just mean that it's a lower cost of borrowing, and so less money for the taxpayers.
Okay, cool. And then also there's a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and that is a mouthful. What does that mean for Farmington?
So there is a national organization, the Government Finance Officers Association, and then that is a program within that group. And it encourages governments to prepare their financial statements beyond the minimum requirements. So the city of Farmington actually has had that award annually since 2012.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yes.
All right. So let's switch over our topics for a minute, and let's talk about your favorite parts of the job. How about you, Josh?
I like the mix of both plan review, being in the office setting, and also being in the field. But ultimately, it really comes back to the best part of the job is working with the homeowners, working with the contractors in town, building up strong relationships with the community, helping them bring that project that they maybe have scribbled down on a napkin.
Yeah, their dreams.
Their dreams, whether it be a deck or a porch or, a detached garage or something like that, and helping them bring that to fruition so that it goes beyond just, a dream, but they can actually realize it's not that intimidating. There's things that they can do to make the process streamlined and easy.
Okay. And recently you were featured in our winter issue of the Current as a Farmington Face. And I had to trim down your little blurb there, but I know you mentioned some kind of word that you found yourself enjoying a little too much. What was that word?
I don't know if I found myself enjoying it too much.
Or saying it too much.
I think my wife makes fun of me for saying it.
And what word is that?
It's embarrassing to say, but it's interpolation.
What does that mean?
So interpolation is it's an estimation. So it is a form of estimation between a couple of known data points. And so a lot of times when we review plans, we have known data points that are in a table, and those are like extremes. And so the code allows you to interpolate between two known values, but you can't extrapolate outside of a value.
Okay.
And so a lot of times when we're doing our plan review, we interpolate to help out the applicant so that we can trim things down to exactly what they want. And we don't want to make them build something to a level that they don't need to if they don't need to.
Okay, that makes sense. New word of the day, interpolate.
Interpolation,
okay.
Yes. Word of the day.
So what kind of information do you think is important for residents to know about what you guys do? So Kim, why don't you go first?
Well, finance is tasked with safeguarding the taxpayers' money, and I take that very seriously. It means ensuring that the money is spent wisely on items that serve a public purpose. And as a part of that, it's also important that we bring up-to-date and accurate financial data to the council so they can make some really important informed decisions.
For sure. What about you, Josh?
I think one thing that's really important to know is, although sometimes people complain about getting a permit or a building permit, it's really the city's way to protect the homeowner or the applicant from sometimes I don't want to make it sound bad, a handyman service, somebody who might not be licensed in the particular field that requires licensure. And there's a lot of protections that are built into getting a permit. One is a contractor recovery fund that is managed.
What is that?
So it's a fund that's managed by the Department of Labor and Industry, and with every permit that you pull, a small portion of that goes to this recovery fund. And what it's intended to do is protect homeowners from cases of fraudulent, deceptive, dishonest, or failure of performance on the part of the contractor if they don't follow through properly. Individual claims can be up to $75,000 for a particular case. And that's a protection that you don't have if you, A, don't have a permit, or B, the person that's doing your job is not licensed for that particular type of work that they're applying for.
So it would be very important for the person to make sure that that person is licensed when they're hiring them.
Correct. So if you're looking online and you're looking for a deck builder or somebody to construct something, yes, it's actually a state requirement that on any advertisement that they actually have to display their building contractor's license number on any advertisements. So that's the first thing to look for.
That's good to know.
But also at the city's level, when we issue a permit, we also ensure that a license is in
Legit.
place. It's in place, it's valid, and that they're up to date.
Okay, good. All right, let's finish with one of the good ones, the touchy-feely questions. Who's inspired you most in your career? Josh?
So I think early on in my career, it would have probably been the first building official that I worked for. And it was a department that provided an internship. And this field is very hard to get into unless you have that foot in the door or an existing skill set or you know somebody. And so internships are very important. And I had a great building official that not only took me in for a 6-month internship, but it continued on for 2 years and was able to kind of guide and mold and educate me in the trade.
Yeah,
so, that was really
so you got
important.
to learn everything from him.
Absolutely.
What about you, Kim?
Well, I guess for my career, not necessarily just within finance and accounting, but my ethics, I would say my dad, and give him credit for work ethic and values. He was a humble owner of a small construction company, and he held himself and his crew to the highest standards. He didn't take shortcuts, took pride in a job well done, and he worked really hard. He's always emphasized the importance of honesty and ethical behavior and encouraged us kids to strive for excellence.
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, actually, I do have one more question. This one's for you, Josh. What is the funniest thing that's ever happened while working in your field?
So I thought about this question. I have two. The first one, I just thought it was quite comical, and I ended up having to get a new pair of boots out of it. But a lot of times when the home is nearing its completion, when we show up to an inspection, the first thing I'll do is, if there's carpet in and finished flooring in the house, I'll take my construction boots off and do my final inspections, a lot of times in either my socks or in some protective booties over my boots.
Right.
And in this particular inspection, I came back to the front door and had realized that a different contractor had slipped my boots on and left his for me to try to squeeze into.
So they weren't the right size.
They were not the right size.
Didn't he notice his were too big?
I was able to track down the particular electrician.
You did know him?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But yes, it was quite comical.
That's a good one.
But the other one that I can think of is we got a complaint from a homeowner that they didn't see a permit displayed on their neighbor's residence, and they were building a deck in the back of their house. And
so you have to display a permit when you're doing a deck?
Yes.
Oh.
So most commonly people will display their permit on the front door. Ours are a bright orange color.
Okay.
And so we went out to this particular house. I talked with the crew that was building the deck and just mentioned to them, I don't show a permit on file for this particular residence. And they assured me, oh no, we have a permit. Our boss pulled a permit. So after we called the owner of the company, he quickly realized that his crew was building a deck
At the wrong house.
Oh my gosh. So where was the people that owned the house?
They were not home at the time.
It's even worse.
And it was about 3/4 of the way completed. They had footings in place. All the framing was done. They had already had the decking on it, and they were finishing up the guard at the time that we showed up. So
Wow.
This particular family, I don't know what arrangements they made, but I think they had a very inexpensive deck when they returned home from their long weekend.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that'd be nice for them, right?
it worked out to one person's favor, but not the others.
Oh, well, I want to thank you guys today for coming in and giving us a preview of you and as new employees here at the City of Farmington and kind of what you do. So I just want everybody listening to remember, if you have a question about permits or your utility bill or anything like that, you can always call City Hall at 651-280-6800, and they can direct you to the correct department and answer your questions. And if not, check our website. It's new and it's fun. So we'll be back in a moment for round 2 of New Employee Speed Round. And we're back with round 2. It'll be with Sean Majewski, building inspector, and Melissa Geis, building permit technician. Hi, and welcome to Sean and Melissa.
Hello.
Hey.
My first question to each of you is how you became interested in your current position. Sean, why don't you go first?
So I was selling real estate, looking for something else to do or something to supplement it or whatever. I'd gone back to school for building inspection technology to get a certificate, just as something to kind of supplement that and take on a new skill.
Well, since you already kind of knew a lot about houses, right?
Yeah, they kind of marry up a little bit. I went back to school for that and ended up not really using that. Continued to sell real estate for a while. And then about a year and a half ago, I was approached with the opportunity to get into the building inspection field. The real estate market was kind of turning, and it seemed like a good time to maybe step out of that space and try something new. And so I made the leap.
Yeah, it's always hard to try something new.
Yeah. And it was a little similar, right? Houses and that kind of thing, but it's very different in terms of, what you're actually dealing with. I decided to give it a go. I started out in Faribault. I was down there for about a year. Came up here to Farmington about 3 months ago.
All right. Well, cool. What about you, Melissa?
I actually started here in a temporary role, filling in for an administrative position that somebody was on leave. And then an opportunity became available to pursue the full-time building permit technician position. And I jumped on that with my background in real estate, similar to Sean.
Both in real estate.
Yes. Yep. So that was a natural transition with the knowledge of what's required in the housing. And
I just learned something new. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. Yep. Also did that. And then prior to that, I worked in the staffing industry. So the customer service, the people interacting, everything just rolled right into this position.
Huge part of this position.
Yes.
Talking with all the people that come up to the front desk and on the phone, right?
Correct.
You've been working in building inspections how long, you said, Sean?
It's been about almost a year and a half.
So what is your favorite part of the job?
Oh, my favorite part of the job, a couple things. I really like learning all the different ways that things can be done in a code compliant manner. There's so much to know about the building code, the residential building code, plumbing, mechanical, all those things. So that's been a challenge for me, being in real estate and dealing with sales, and then coming into this space where now we're building from the ground up and looking at the details of what I used to sell. So that's challenging. I really enjoy that. And I also like being out in the field and interacting with homeowners and contractors every day. And
you're not just sitting at a desk all day.
Not just sitting behind the desk, exactly. So it's fun to get out in the field and interact with the public.
Okay. Melissa, what do you like about your position?
I also like the interacting with the different people, the contractors, the customers, the residents, everybody. It's a good variety. You never know what your day is going to bring you.
Well, yeah, and all the random questions and
Correct.
Sometimes complaints, but sometimes positivity, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I mentioned this earlier with Josh in round 1 about building inspectors getting a bad rep, and unfortunately, it kind of still is true, right?
Probably.
How do you have you encountered an issue, or?
Yeah, I think that
you got to stay positive about it, right?
You got to stay positive. You have to realize that this is a people industry. Just like real estate. And it's kind of about relationships and how you approach things. That's really important. That doesn't always happen in a great way that fosters those relationships. So sometimes we get that perception that maybe we're out to trip up homeowners and contractors. We're there to help. And from our perspective, and I know our crew here in Farmington, we're really focused on the minimum standard, which is the code, and gaining compliance with that, because that's what gets you a safer and more durable end product.
And safe is the key. Like, you need to be safe, period, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
You're there to protect them, not gotcha.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny. Like, I'm thinking about like one of the first podcasts I did. We talked about, I was with the fire department, and we talked about all the fires that happened in Farmington back in the day, because none of these things were thought about. None of these things were checked for. And there was a lot more wood everywhere that was easily burned. The one firefighter that had worked here for years was talking about it, like how bad it was, because it was easily, one fire started and then the next one's, and
Sure.
it's not just about fire, but that's a big component, right? You have to make sure all that stuff is safe and not going to create a
Right.
fire, right?
Like right now, they have a couple units that have fire damage, and they've been working on making sure that the fire blocking is to code, and getting properties that were older upgraded to the code for now.
Oh yeah, because
So-
even like the
bringing
older
things up.
ones, you have to
Yes.
make sure are
Yep.
right. I mean, I know there was like, we've been through housing sales and purchases at least 5 different times myself from moving so much. But one of those things is like knowing all those things that happened to a house or
Yeah, the
weren't
disclosure,
upgraded.
yep.
Yeah, and like I remember seeing one where it was like, well, as is. What does that mean for us? There's a lot of work to do when we buy it, right?
Correct.
So I'm glad we didn't buy that one. So what information do you think is most important for residents to know about what you do? John, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's important for them to know that we're here to be a resource. There's, like I said, so many different parts to the code. There's so many different things to know, whether it's code, whether it's standards, whether it's manufacturer installation instructions, all those kind of things. And we can be here to help facilitate that process so that homeowners, contractors, et cetera, they end up with that safer, more durable, code compliant product at the end of the day, and they can get their money's worth out of what they're doing in their project.
For sure.
And so we're not here to, like I said, trip people up. We're here to be a resource and answer questions and educate the public too.
Okay. And for you, like you're the face at the desk, or you're the voice on the phone. What do you think is the most important thing for people to know when they're calling you?
That there is actually no dumb question. A lot of people will start their phone call with, I don't know who I should ask, or this is kind of a dumb question. No, it's not. You're not expected to know all of that. That's what we're here for, is to help guide you through what's required or any questions you have.
For sure, they're not expected to know every
No.
detail. You're right.
No.
Yeah, and you're here to help them figure that
Yeah.
out. As a building permit technician, what do you do?
I actually do a little bit of everything for supporting the building department. I answer the phones, schedule the inspections, work with the contractors to make sure their licensing and everything is current, answer any questions that the residents have about simple things as far as what is needed, where they can find information on the code, help them walk through the process of applying for the permits.
Probably
so a little
show
bit of
'em
everything.
or tell them stuff about the website.
Yep, walk
or
them-
the code website as well.
Yep,
right?
absolutely. Yep, guide them through that.
And then for you, what does your day look like?
Yeah, so obviously we're at our desk to start with, kind of reviewing the schedule for the day, maybe doing some plan review at our desk, maybe following up on inspections from the day before. Then we're out in the field much of the day. Especially here, we're very busy with a lot of new construction.
Oh yeah, they just talked about that in the state of the city, how many permits you guys have been
It's
Yeah.
a lot.
doing.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it definitely keeps us busy. So we're out most of the morning, most of the afternoon on actual inspections, and then coming back and doing more plan review, entering those inspections into our electronic software so that we have a record of them, that kind of thing.
So let's get a little serious for a second. Who's inspired you most in your career?
I wouldn't say there's any one person in particular, but I have worked with a lot of really knowledgeable people, and I work with a lot of really knowledgeable people right now. And so being relatively new to the field and sometimes overwhelmed with all the information being thrown at me
I feel you on that.
and available out there and that we need to know and be familiar with, working with experienced building officials, building inspectors, contractors, all those things, and learning and seeing how they apply the code and how they've gained that knowledge over time is really helpful to me to see how over time you kind of gather that knowledge and you get better at inspecting, you get better at educating people on the code itself and on how to do things.
Or even
in a
just how to
code-compliant
explain
way.
it probably too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
It might take a different way of explaining from one person to the next too, right?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I do that with coaching volleyball. Like I could say one thing to a player and they don't get it, but like another coach says it a slightly different way and they're like, oh yeah, I totally
Yep.
get that.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
How about you?
For inspiring in my career in this current role, actually, what helped me make the move to stay on full time and actually pursue the building permit position was the entire building team and the community development team. They're all very driven for Farmington to grow and to be successful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually ask, what's the funniest thing that happened in your job? And sometimes I'm imagining that real estate's not really funny or building inspections isn't really funny because it's about safety. But I can tell you guys what's the funniest thing that's happened since I've been here. Would you like to hear that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Multiple times I have forgot to press record. And then
Hopefully
decided
you did this time.
I did press record today.
Good.
But had to re-record a session. So there you go.
That's a good way to get to know somebody really good.
Let's just do it again. So thank you so much, Melissa and Sean, for giving us a glimpse of what happens in building inspections. And welcome to the Team Farmington, because that's our
Thank
thing,
you.
Team Farmington. Before I wrap up today's episode, I do want to share that May is Deck Safety Month, which is directly in your department. Mm-hmm. Anything that you want to mention about that?
Yeah, we actually have a couple really great reference materials on our website. So if you go to the City of Farmington website, under the building division, there are some handouts there. There's a deck handout. There's a porch and addition handout that can be great reference tools for not only deck safety, but how to construct a deck to code. And there's some charts and tables in there that are really useful when you're planning and drawing up your plans and building your deck.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All
Great.
right. That concludes this month's episode of the Farmington Feed. Thank you for listening. We look forward to connecting with residents with this podcast. If you have any feedback, guest requests, or ideas, email me at communications@farmingtonmn.gov. Don't forget to subscribe to Farmington Feed wherever you like to get your podcasts.